Okay, now in this demonstration, I want to show you comparison of, let's say, year over year, quarter over quarter, month over month, number comparisons for different types of data. In the previous video, we just kind of looked at yearly and quarterly breakdowns, but we didn't get into showing what percentage increase or decrease did things change by year over year, quarter over quarter, month over month, that type of thing. So I want to show you how to do that here. So let's go ahead and create a new pivot here. So we'll click on Insert. We'll go here to Pivot Table. We'll hit OK, and there we go. I want to start out first of all with the parent company. All right, so I want to bring in parent company for the rows. There we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and bring in the total sales, so the revenue over in the values here. So now we've got that. Now, currently what we're looking at is what Brigadoon did for the 4 or 5 years of sales that we have on them. And then what we're going to do also is bring in the order date, and we're going to put that into the columns area here. There we go. That looks pretty good. And that's it. Now, when we bring it in, when we bring in that order date, it does break it down by years, by quarters, and by month. So month actually is the order date field name at this point. So years, quarters, and the months. Now, I don't really need right now the quarters and the months, and it's actually taking up space up here to display them. In other words, right now, if I were to click on that little plus there, click on that little plus there, you can see how it's broken down. I don't need to see all that. So I'm going to click on any one of these elements, go back up into the Analyze tab, click onto the Group field, all right, and I'm going to take off the months and the quarters and just leave the years. Hit OK. There we go. Now I'm going to fix the number formatting just by just doing a right click on any one of the numbers. Go back down here to Value Field Settings. Go to Number Format. Tell it number, comma, no decimal places. Hit OK. A couple times there, and there we go. Now, what I want to do is I want to bring in the revenue field once again, and that revenue field, the second occurrence of that revenue field, we're going to use as a calculation as far as the percentage increase or decrease, or the percentage change, in this case, year over year. Now to do that, I'm just going to go back down here and find the T-sale again, and just put it right underneath that one. So when I bring that in, there it becomes. So there is the second occurrence of that same field. But like I said before, the second occurrence, we're going to change that into the percentage. All right, percentage change from, let's say, when we go from 2022 to 2023, how much did we go up or down, percentage-wise? 23 to 24, same thing. So we'll go ahead and we'll double-click onto the field heading here. We'll go over into the Show Values As, hit the drop-down, and we're going to find a item here called Percentage Difference From. Now we click onto that. We then go ahead and tell it that as far as what the base field is, the base field would be what we're breaking this down by. Well, the base field in this case is the order date. Usually, when you're doing this type of comparison, it's always usually date-related information. So therefore, this would always be the date field, whatever it is for you with your data. And then we're going to go over here and say that for each of the years, we want to compare to the previous year to figure out what that percentage is. So it's always going to be previous on this. Very rarely would you have anything else other than that. Like one of the exceptions might be that you want to compare 2023 to 2022, 2024 to 2022, 2025 to 2022. If you're going to be doing that, then your comparison, I should say your base item, would be 2022. but that'll be a very rare thing that you want to do that. But previous is the way we want to go. So we hit previous, we go ahead and hit OK, and there we go. So when you look at this number to this number, going up maybe about 300,000 or so, that's a 7% increase. Going from here to here, we went down by about 400,000, whatever. There you go on that one. So there's the negative 9.28. So pretty neat stuff. Now we could go in there and change this label to revenue. And over here we could maybe call this one, this field called maybe percentage CHG or something like that. All right. And then to get it all nice and fixed up format-wise, we can do a few things here with it. First of all, we can go up here into the Analyze tab, go to our pivot table button here, go to Options, and turn on the Merge and Center, and that will then take and merge these, all right, and then center, and merge and center that, I should say, and then just center these guys, see? That's pretty good. And then the other thing you might want to do is go over to Design, find yourself, you know, some sort of a style that you like to apply to your data. It could be anything. There's no right or wrong with this. You're the artist. You're the designer. I'm just going to pick green, this one right here for now. Do that. You can also add a little bit to that by putting in the banded rows, get that a little bit more, you know, highlighted. And the same thing with the banded columns if you want to do something like that. All right. So again, that's all up to you. Now, this in itself is all-encompassing. I mean, what you're looking at right now are the numbers for all the years. So we got about 5 years of sales here. You see those years in there broken down. Over at the end here, you can actually see, you know, what the total revenue was as well. Now, the other thing that you might want to do is break this down a little bit further. So maybe instead of having as a yearly breakdown, have it as maybe a quarterly breakdown. All right. So what we're going to need now are the fields, or the field that we need for quarters. Now, you might look in your list here and you say, okay, I'm going to look through here. I've got my order date there. Kind of scroll down the list here, and I'm not seeing quarters in there. All right. And why is that? Well, if you remember right in the very beginning, we had it already broken down by year, by quarter, by month, and then we had gone into the Analyze area here in the group field, and we had deselected the months and the quarters and just left the years. That's why we no longer have them. So we need to bring them back. How are we going to do that? Well, what you'll do is you'll click onto any one of the dates that we already have, right? This will activate this. We can then click onto that, all right? And in this case now tell it that we want to bring in quarters. So we're going to choose quarters there, right? So hit OK on that. So now it's showing the years and then broken down by quarters. Now, you might look at this, and of course if you go across here, then you'll see the next year and the next year and so forth, right? This, to me, would be a little bit too big. I mean, you're getting to a point, as I said in another video way back when, you get to a point with summaries where you get too summarized, it then becomes almost unsummarized in a way, right? Because there's just too much data to look at. So what we might want to do instead is have it broken down by quarter, but have the year as being a filter. So in other words, instead of looking at all the years, have it where what you're looking at right here would be just one specific year and not have to scroll, have to scroll over to see each of the other years. I don't want to have to do that. So what we can do here then is take the years that we have for our column heading right now and put that in as one of the filters. See? So we'll let go on that one. So now what you're looking at is just having the quarterly breakdown. Now by doing that, that messes up our percentage change, because the percentage change initially was based on year over year, and now we've kind of changed that to quarters, and having done that, it also messed everything else up. So very easy to fix. All right, and this is not I didn't make a mistake here. This is just what would naturally happen. So when you're doing this on your own, you're gonna run into the same scenario, but now you're gonna know how to fix it. So what we're going to do is we're going to point to the percentage change here, because that's the thing that's messed up here. And we're going to double click that, all right, and go back over into our show values as, and you can see on here it says there's no calculation, so it completely blew it away. Now, you'll click onto here, we'll go back down to our percentage difference from, just like we did before. Now, here's what happens. This is the mistake you'll make at this point. You'll say, oh yes, so I know that the base field needs to be that order date field, right? Well, if you do that, and you do this, like you're supposed to, this will not be the right percentage. And the reason for it is that the order date field, technically now, is really the years. What we really need to do here is not go with the order date field, but rather, look at this. Oh, I'm sorry. We need to go with the quarter date. I'm sorry. I messed that up. All right, so sorry. So we're okay here. So all we really need to do is pick the order date and do the previous. What happens though sometimes is that this needs to be, referred to, but because order date is currently being used as the quarterly field name, then we can go ahead with that. Other time, well, you'll see. We'll do another one of these, and you'll see how we need to change this. Now, so definitely order date, because that's the field, right? That's what we're using. So order date and previous, hit OK, and there we go. So there's our change. There's our percentage change. So we'll go from here to here, about a 20% drop. That's pretty cool. And it looks really nice. Now, the problem with what you're looking at here is that this number right here, that is for every quarter one for the 5 years. And why is that? Well, that's because we're showing all years. So what we have to do now to make this more accurate, make it look accurate, is to go up here, or better, let me just say this. If you were to look at that, you'd say, oh, that's quarter one, quarter two, quarter three, and quarter four. Of what year? And then you say, oh, I don't know. Well, that's because you're seeing all years. See? So what you need to do in this situation is just make sure that you've picked a particular year that you want to be broken down by. So now the numbers that you're seeing there are the quarter one, quarter two, quarter three, quarter four for 2022 or for 2023. See? Now let's say that we want to have the monthly breakdown. In other words, we want to see all the months, January, February, March, April, and have the month over month comparison. How about that? Well, problem is that if we go through our fields here, we're not going to find months, because remember, we didn't bring in month as far as our grouping a little bit earlier. So what are we going to do? We're going to click on one of the quarters here. We're going to click on to our group field. We're going to turn on the months. There we go. Hit OK, and there we go. So now we have, if we bring this up a little bit here, so now we have years, which is up here. If we go over here a little bit, you'll see this. Oh, so we got our years along the top there, and then we have our quarters and all that stuff. So, but it's not laid out exactly the way we need it to be. But we're just getting started here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put years once again back into filters. We might as well just take quarters and put quarters into filters, all right? And that leaves us with the order date. And the order date technically now is representing the months, all right? Now again, since we did this now, we made this change, it messed up our percentage calculation. So we're going to go ahead and do a double click on the percentage, just like that. We're going to go to show values as. We're going to go to the, No calculation here, and then we're going to scroll down. We're going to find that percentage difference from, once again. Now, what are we going to pick for the base field? Well, look at this. These are months, all right? But the months now are currently being represented by the order date field, believe it or not. That's what you see here. So it's easy to see that. You see it right there. There's your order date and your values. Here's your order date, values, right? So at this point, we know we need to pick order date. So we do order date there. And we want previous there. Hit OK. And there we go. So now you're looking at, now we're not all the way there yet. Again, because we don't have the filters in place up here for the years or the quarters, this number here that you're looking at is the January revenue number for each January added up in the 5 years, right? So how do we fix that? Well, we just go ahead and we click on to the years filter here. We pick, let's say, 2022, hit OK. Now that's accurate. So the revenue that you're seeing here is for January of 2022, and there you go. And of course, we're seeing all the quarters, therefore you're seeing everything here. Now, what's kind of cool about this, the way we've got it set up, is if we change the filter and say we just want to see the first quarter, and then hit OK, that then will show 2022's quarter one, which is going to be January, February, March. Pretty interesting. Now, what you can also do with this, which is pretty cool as well, is if you wanted to see, let's say, 2 quarters, let's say you wanted to see January, February, March, and also April, May, and June, right? Well, if you click onto here, it's hard to pick more than one. You can only just pick one. But if we thought we want to select multiple items, then it allows us to have checks in here, and then we can pick multiples and pick the 2, just like that. Now, I said in previous videos, the only thing I didn't like about using the filter and picking multiple items within the filter is that when you go and hit OK, it's just going to say multiple items. So you're not going to know by looking at that which quarters you picked. But here's the thing. You're going to know which quarters you have because there it is. I mean, it's going to be listed right there for you. So anybody looking at this would say, well, what is multiple items? But they'll just say to themselves, oh, okay, I guess what it means is it's multiple quarters. And as I can see here, yeah, it looks like first quarter, second quarter, so no problem. All right, so that looks pretty good. So now if I go back and say, well, I just want to see 1 quarter, so I'll just hit the all here. That'll get everything turned on, or hit the check mark, get off there, I'm sorry. Hit just quarter 1 here, hit OK, there we go. Not bad. If I go back in there and say all, just like that, hit OK, then everybody's in there. So all quarters, right, for 2022. See, so I'm back to seeing everything. And this is all very accurate. So once you've kind of figured out how you want to see this kind of data, then you can think about maybe swapping out different fields or putting new additional fields in to the rows area to get different kind of breakdowns of your data. So I just want to spend a little time just showing you some interesting pairings of fields that we can do here that will give us some pretty good information about our sales here. So on this first one, I just want to maybe add to, the parent company. So let me just pull this down a little bit here so I see a little bit better. And let's say a good pairing with parent company might be just the company field. So I can take the company field, pull that down like that, and there we go. All right, so now I'm able to see not only what I saw originally as far as my parent company numbers, but now I can actually see now the companies that are in or within those parent companies, right? Now, another thing that you're going to notice when you do something like this, especially when you start getting to a point where, in this case, we can see that we might not have produced revenue from certain companies on certain months. You can see a lot of empty cells in here, but you also see the null in there on the calculation type fields on some of them. And the reason for that is that we're getting an error because if there's no comparative number, there's no divisor type number in there, then if we look at the revenue of Anna in January versus February, well, February had no revenue, so it gets that little error message. So there's nothing wrong with it. It just looks bad. It looks like if you gave this to somebody, they go, oh, you know, it looks like you messed this up. So what we can do is we can tell it, hey, I don't want to see the error messages. Just leave it blank. So how do we do that? Well, if you go back to Analyze up here, go to your pivot table, go to your options, you'll see down here towards the bottom it says for error values show, right? That's what we see here. I'm going to put a check mark in there and activate it and say that I want to show it as nothing. Just as right now, zero cells that have nothing in them, that would be 0. Here we're saying that for empty cells, show nothing. In other words, we could say that, or we could say 0, or, you know, as I said, nothing at all. So there's going to be nothing else, but just the 2 check marks in here. Hit OK, and there we go. Looks a little bit better. It's just sparse because, like I said, we're kind of drilling down pretty specific here. Okay, so what might be another pairing we can do? Well, let's pull off these 2, and let's look at the territory, the zone, and maybe the country. So we could take zone here, drag that down in there. That looks good, right? And then we can maybe bring in country underneath it, break it down by that. And if you thought that maybe you could get away with just a little bit more information, we could even go as far as bringing in maybe the company or the companies that are within each of these countries. So we could actually go and take the company, pull that down into here, just like that, and there we go. And to kind of break up the monotony a little bit here, we can actually go back over to the Design tab, go over here to the blank rows, and tell it that we want to insert a blank line after each of the groups. So it does something like that for us. That looks pretty good. And again, you can go back in here, you can maybe change this up a little bit. Maybe you might say, I don't like green anymore. Hit the drop down and maybe find a different color. Maybe go with the rust here. Go with something like that. So it's all up to you. You're the artist. You're the designer here. All right, so we'll pull those off now. We're going to go with some other fields here. So I'm going to look at the rep, and I'm concerned about the rep because I want to see not only what the rep has done. All right, so we'll take the rep here. Oh, we're down there. So take the rep name here, and I'm thinking about maybe the categories of product that they sell into. So I'll take the category, put that underneath there. Now I can actually see each of the reps, each of the categories, and how they sold month over month in 2022, right? Not bad. Looks pretty good. Now you're going to have some spaces in there, and this would be areas of concern for a sales manager that might be looking at these numbers and saying, well, how come Adams, okay, here, Adams, when it came to meat and poultry, sold absolutely nothing in January, nor February, nor April, and whatever number of months past that. So it's a great way of seeing where maybe the rep is kind of lagging off a little bit, and needs to be kind of corrected, and figure out why sales in those areas were not made. Our big push is that we want to sell all categories to all customers, hopefully all months of the year. And speaking of products and so forth, let's go ahead and let's maybe pull the rep off, and let's find our product name, put that underneath the category, and now we can actually see each of our categories and see each of our categories on each of our products. We got that. And another area that you can maybe look at, let's pull these guys off, would be having to do with the vendor. Now we have the information, within our database. Let me just show you here, where we're also keeping track of the vendor. In other words, whatever the product was that we sold, who is the vendor, right? And by having that information as well kind of tagged up in here, we can then go ahead and look at that. So we can actually find our vendors. So bring the vendor field here, There's all of our vendors. And even though the vendor isn't really, I guess, directly responsible for us making sales, they are, in a way, I guess, responsible for it, because if we didn't have their product, we wouldn't be able to sell it. So we might just want to look at each of our vendors and look at the dollar amounts that we had generated, month over month. Kind of an interesting thing. That kind of information might mean something to somebody. All right, and it's just nice to know we can pull that up. Now, if we wanted to break it down a little bit more, we could say, well, let's look at also the category. See, we can bring our categories underneath the vendor. There we go. That looks pretty good. We can see all that information there as well. You could go even further if you wanted to, and maybe even bring in the product, the product name. So this way we can actually see the vendor, the category, and then the breakdown by product as well. Again, you might be getting into a situation where we're bringing in so much, we're summarizing so much here that it becomes overwhelming and it no longer looks like a summary. And then maybe one last thing we can look at here, and then I'll call to quits on this video here. I know it's been going on for a long time here. We can actually maybe look at the territory, our zone, right? So take the territory in there and then bring in our categories, right? And this might give us some, helpful information as far as how we're selling into the different countries, and is there any kind of a pattern, or any of the territories here, is there any kind of a pattern going on here that we need to be aware of? But again, good stuff. So hopefully you enjoyed this this video. Hopefully you can use some of this information, especially some of the troubleshooting things that we did. And I hope you liked it. Appreciate it. Take care.